Good morning, Ugly Mug marketing friends and followers. Welcome to another edition of Ugly Mug Marketing Coffee Chats, the live show where we drink coffee and chat about leadership, business, marketing, everything in between. My name is Hannah Balia, and I'm the Director of Communication and Teaching at Ugly Mug Marketing, and I'm really excited for today's crucial conversation. Just kidding. We're not actually having a crucial conversation, but I have our operations manager, Maura Saldana, here on the call today, or on the show today, because Maura has been navigating her new role as our operations manager. And a part of that has been at times navigating some uncomfortable conversations. Not bad necessarily, but just uncomfortable. And Maura has really been leaning on a book that we read a few years ago as a team called Crucial Conversations. And I really wanted to have her on the show today to talk about that because so often we have to have these uncomfortable or difficult or challenging or tough conversations in the workplace. And yet, so few of us know how to actually handle those well and how to actually navigate those conversations with a framework that's proven and that works. And so today I've invited Maura to share with us what she's learned as she's been diving into her new role as operations manager over the course of the last year at Ugly Mug, and to share with us some of her favorite findings from the book Crucial Conversations. So thank you so much for being here today, Maura, and welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited.
So let's just dive in. So many people might be joining us, whether they're watching live or catching the replay, because they're like, yikes, I've been avoiding a uncomfortable conversation with a colleague or with my boss or with an employee. And I really need to know, does this qualify as a crucial conversation? And how do I navigate that? So let's start with a very baseline definition of what is a crucial conversation.
Yeah, definitely. Well, first off, before we get to that definition, if you're asking the question, I would say treat it as one.
Right.
But yeah, so a crucial conversation is a conversation between two or more people. So it doesn't have to be one-on-one with just one person. It could be a whole group of people. But it's where the stakes are high, people are very emotional, and have different opinions.
Okay.
Or they could be emotional. They don't have to be, but they could be.
Yeah. Okay. High stakes, emotions, and differing opinions. That's how we identify crucial conversation. I like that you say too that it doesn't always have to be one-on-one, because I think when I think about having a tough conversation, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to talk to Wayne about, something that happened or a mistake that I made, or maybe Wayne has to talk to me about a mistake that I made, or when I was overseeing the social media department. Again, like just thinking about very one-on-one scenarios, but there are others where it's to the whole team or it's to a specific department or, yeah, there certainly are instances where it is a group and not just one-on-one. So I like that you brought that up.
And often with the groups too, it's often not planned. So something could go on in a group meeting and then instantaneously something happens, and that's when it becomes a crucial conversation. When either stakes are high, different opinions vary, or emotions come full front, then it is now a crucial conversation and needs to be treated like one.
Yeah, that's also an excellent point. We don't plan for these things, these types of conversations to occur. Sometimes they just happen in the midst of, like you said, a team meeting or, because it can quickly shift, and it can also quickly become about the emotions, or the conversation gets really hung up on one particular thing when we're really after a different outcome, or we're not. We'll talk about shared pool of meaning here in a few minutes, but okay, those are excellent points. So the stakes are high, there's high emotions, there's differing opinions. It can be with one-on-one or it can be with a group, and it's not necessarily always planned. I would say ideal situation is it is planned. Like, you're going to be heading into that. But we need to know how to handle those situations when all of a sudden we can feel that like shift in a one-on-one meeting with someone, or feel that shift happening in a group setting too.
Yeah.
So I guess if we feel that shift coming on in a meeting where we're like, hey, stakes are high, or differing opinions, or people are getting really passionate and emotional, what kinds of questions do we need to ask ourselves kind of in that moment maybe, or, even if we're preparing to have some level of a tough conversation, uncomfortable, crucial conversation with someone, what are some of those questions that we need to kind of ask ourselves as we're in the moment or heading into one of these types of conversations?
Yeah, for sure. First off, if you have time to prepare, wow, do it, because it is crucial to help that conversation and everything that follows that conversation. The more you can prepare, the better. And some ways you can prepare for that would be asking yourself, what do I really want out of this conversation? So answer that question, and then answer, what do I want for the other people in the conversation?
Yeah.
And then go beyond that. So as the conversation is taking place, or even after the conversation is taking place, what do I want for that relationship? So it's a whole lot of big thinking, but the culmination of that is, how would I behave, or how would I treat this conversation if I wanted those specific results?
Yeah.
So thinking ahead, what is the actual outcome that needs to happen from this conversation? From my perspective, from the other person's, from the relationship as a whole, or the company as a whole, what needs to happen? And then based off of that, how do I treat the conversation in order to get those results or to help?
Yeah. Do you think that if we have time to prepare and we have thought through answers within the conversation, is it worth start giving that starting point and baseline of, here's what I'm after, here's what I think would be here's what I'm looking for out of the end of our conversation, here's what I think is good for you? Like, do we acknowledge that, or do we like keep that to ourselves?
Yeah, I think honestly that depends on the conversation and
Yeah.
the person you're talking to. A lot of the conversations I've had in the past year have started with me asking a question. So not me coming at them with, hey, this is this, 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 and this. It's,
Yeah.
hey, what about this? Or how did this happen? Or explain to me so I can understand. If you come from that perspective, you're coming with not an aggressive, this is the way that's going to happen, this is what's going to get done. You're coming with, hey, I want to learn, I want to know the history behind whatever the conversation is.
Yeah.
But all the while in the back of my mind, I know the answers to these questions. So I'm like, okay, based on how they answer my initial question, we still have to get to the result that is beneficial for the whole company. So figuring out how to navigate that as you go without over pressuring them or coming at them where it feels like an attack.
Definitely. Because how often, even in our personal lives, how often do we have these high emotions, high stake conversations, and we leave them feeling like something's not resolved, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I even think about when my husband and I, Wes, have a disagreement, and we like are kind of like talking, and then the conversation just kind of like fizzles out. And I'm like, and then both of us the next day were like, we didn't actually come to some sort of resolution, or we didn't like really like get to the point of like, well, what are we going to do differently next time? Or how should we handle that? Or what is our, like, we always come back to like our shared pool of meaning, which I want to kind of jump a little bit ahead and talk about that, is that we're on the same team, right? Like, we want the same, like, we know what the desired outcome is for our life, for our marriage, for our family. Like, we're on the same team. So like, that's how we always like bring it back. Like, whenever we're having some sort of disagreement, it's like, okay. But we're on the same team. We want the same things. So like, then kind of using that to kind of backtrack. So let's talk a little bit about that. Like, as we're kind of entering into this conversation, we've prepared ourselves, maybe we're asking some of these questions. But I think the shared pool of meaning component is really key and can be if you don't have time to prepare and it is happening in real time, this can be a quick way to kind of be like, okay, well, let's dial it back a little bit. Let's add some things into the shared pool of meaning so that everyone feels safe, which we're going to talk about here in just a minute too. But talk to us a little bit about what is the shared pool of meaning. What is that concept from this book?
Yeah, so we all enter a conversation with our own opinions, our own history, our own feelings, our own theories, and our own perspective of the experience that happened.
Yeah.
So each of us, no matter if it's 2 or if it's 10, we all come in with that information. So the shared pool is when it's allowed to have those different opinions, different theories, different experiences, and it's safe to share them, but to understand that it's okay to not agree. So everyone comes in with all of these different opinions. That's fine. Let's talk through them. Let's figure out a solution that's going to best fit the company in this situation or your marriage. And you figure out, okay, which one's going to be the best fit. But it's safe for everyone to share their opinions, their theories, their experiences. And that's where that shared pool of meaning comes in, is everyone is allowed or is able to bring all that information in without feeling unsafe.
Yeah. So what does safety look like in a conversation? Because I know some of us is like, they're like, this is a safe space, and this is, like some people have certain feelings around that. Like I think that word
Yeah.
safety has like different connotations. And so in the context of crucial conversations, what
Yes.
does like what role does safety play in a conversation? And is it important? What does it look like? How can we be on the lookout for safety in a crucial conversation?
Yeah. So what role does it play? A massive one. Is it important? Yes, it is very, very, very important. And how does it occur, or what does it look like? So safety in a conversation, especially a crucial conversation, the point of it is to allow the other person, or yourself, honestly, because it can flip very quickly, to not be hindered by fear of humiliation or the fear, and this is the big one, of not being heard.
Yes.
So feeling safe and being vulnerable enough to share your thoughts and your feelings without the fear of being humiliated or just not listened to at all.
Yeah. Yeah. So
So
what are some things that we can like be on the lookout for if we're the facilitator of the meeting or if we're someone who's participating? It might be different from both of those perspectives, right?
yeah, yeah, it definitely can be. And like I mentioned, a crucial conversation can take a turn very quickly. So the person so if I'm the facilitator, and I bring up a question and that person feels attacked, they're going to show things differently where they no longer feel it's safe to share their opinions. So defensive responses is one way someone doesn't feel safe. You can see that in how they interact. So arms crossed is a big one. They don't look at you anymore, smile gone. Sometimes you might not have a smile to begin with, but looking away, sharing the cold silence. So if you ask a question, no responses, or like short, quick responses, that could also be a way that they're showing they don't feel safe.
Okay.
And most of the time, honestly, people don't think it's because they don't feel safe. That doesn't even cross their mind. Like the way we're using safety in this conversation, most people don't think about. They just feel attacked or feel in the wrong, or somebody has wronged them. So they don't even think of it as I don't feel safe to share my opinions.
Yeah. They associate it with one of those other
Yes.
terms or feelings, but really
Yes.
ultimately it is an issue of safety. So, how do we, if we recognize that someone is feeling not safe in the conversation, we can tell that they've got their arms crossed or that, like, how do we create a safe environment for them to want to enter into that like shared pool of meaning and kind of safe space as well?
Yeah, whenever I see something like that happening, it could be in a team meeting, and I'm noticing since my brain is now focused to all of this, I'm in a
Mhm.
team meeting, I'm noticing how everyone responds to things.
Yeah.
So I could not be part of the conversation at all, but I'm seeing person A respond to person B in a way that is, ooh, they didn't like that, or there's
Oh,
something right there. Um, Maybe rephrasing a question or saying, okay, wait, let's take a moment. I said it like this. That may have come across the wrong way. The goal is, and this is when you can bring up the question from the very beginning that you asked, the goal is a better work environment or such and such to get results. Um, with that in mind, how do you suggest we move forward? We
mhm.
have two different opinions. We have two different feelings around this. This is the goal. How do we get there? So, taking a step back, acknowledging that you see something is not right or something came across the wrong way. Take responsibility for your side of that
Yeah,
because each person has a piece of responsibility in this. So,
yeah.
you can't make them take responsibility, but you can take it yourself. So, take
Mhm,
responsibility and say, okay, I said it this way. That could have been wrong or taken the wrong way. That's me. Let me
mhm.
try again. Or let's rephrase this. Here's where we're trying to go. How do we get there?
Yep. Yep. That's so good because I think sometimes we do get so high on the emotional side of things that not really knowing how to dial it back or to take responsibility even in that moment and to ask it in a different way or to rephrase it and to be on the lookout. Like in the midst of all of this happening, it's so easy again to like go down that rabbit hole of like I'm feeling really defensive and aggressive or I'm upset and to really like get carried away on that instead of just like having a framework to know, all right, I am feeling attacked in this moment,
Mhm.
or I am feeling like, or I am recognizing that as I've brought this up in a team meeting or in a one on one, that now this person feels a little cold or they're crossing their arms. Like I can be on the lookout for these things so that I can adjust, pivot, so that we can have that shared pool of meeting and that we can get to a desired outcome, whether again, for the sake of the relationship, for the
Mhm.
team, for the company, whatever that might be. Um,
Exactly.
and it sounds like we really need to have that type of awareness all the time, right? Like this is
Yes.
not just stakes because again, we can't plan for these types of
Mhm.
conversations to happen, right? They just kind
Yeah.
of do. And so I loved how you talked about just this awareness in team meeting now. Like, if we're going to have a checklist going into a group meeting where we know there is potential for crucial conversations, for high stakes or for high emotions, like what are things that we can, and you've already kind of touched on this a little bit, but like what are some key areas or things that we can focus on so that we can make sure that we're getting to that desired outcome at the end of the meeting with that person or with that group?
Yeah, for sure. Um, a lot of what we just talked about had to do with emotions. So I'm going to start by
Mhm.
answering your question with that.
Yeah.
If you know where your emotions are, everyone has emotions. It's okay to have emotions. You're allowed to have them, right?
Mhm.
You just shouldn't be controlled by them. And that's where, if you're aware of your emotions and how you react to certain emotions, that alone can help your conversations a whole lot more. So if I know I get very frustrated about X, right?
Mhm.
When I know that emotion comes up or that thing was said that really frustrates me, I'm aware of myself enough to say, okay, that's going to frustrate me or that frustrates me.
Yeah.
that is not the whole conversation. That is one piece of the conversation. So if you're aware of your emotions and you're able to separate not yourself from your emotions, but you're able to separate your reactions from your emotions and say, okay, let's pause a moment. This is where I am. This is where I need to go. So if you can recognize your own emotions, then you can start recognizing other people's emotions. And most of the time, if you hang around people enough, you can get a pattern of, okay, this emotion leads to this action for the most part. So then you're aware ahead of time, this emotion was just like this person just had this emotion. What am I going to do about it? Or how can I switch the conversation or adjust what I'm saying in order to stop that from continuing down the wrong path?
Yeah.
So being aware of your own emotions allows you to be aware of other people's emotions.
Okay.
Think of it as we use like a 10,000 foot view. Think of it like that. So yes, your emotions and everything is going on in your heart and your head. Be outside of that for a moment, and that will help you be able to see yourself, but also how other people react to.
Yeah. Well, I'm like, how can we talk about like an example, or maybe there's one from the book, like just to see this in some context. Like, I know people that are watching, they might be a part of a team and they're not necessarily the person that is, they're not necessarily the person that's in charge, but I think our thing at Ugly Mug as a team is that we are all leaders and we all contribute in different ways. And we all have the ability to hold one another accountable for meeting goals or meeting expectations as a part of our company expectation guide. And I think the way that our company is structured and functions is maybe a little bit different, like than other companies are. Like maybe other companies are a little bit more have more of a hierarchy that they kind of follow, right? I'm not going to try and say.
Yeah, I was going to say, go ahead and try it. I'm going to let you do that.
Why am I blanking on that, or how to say that? Anyway, they might have more of a hierarchy, and so some people in roles might not feel like they can step in and have a crucial conversation. They might need to take that to their boss and say, hey, this is kind of what I'm navigating with this other individual, or I've noticed this, and then a conversation sparks from there. But I think from the perspective of, hey, we're all leaders and we all can enter into crucial conversations at any given moment with a team member or with our boss or with a group. So I guess I'm trying to think just like of examples, even like within our team, just to like give context of like what those kinds of things can look like.
Yeah, and I also want to clarify, crucial conversation is not hiring, firing, big decisions only.
No.
So if you're
Excellent
a team
point.
member and you have a disagreement with another team member, even in a company that has a hierarchy, you can still go to that team member to make things right with them. And that is technically still a crucial conversation because emotions are high, stakes are high, it's a relationship, and your opinions might vary. So I would say treat that conversation the same way. Go in answering those questions. What do I want for myself? What do I want for that person? What do I want for the relationship? What is the end result? Go in with those questions and that'll help that conversation. So don't think, is this conversation big enough that I think ahead and answer these questions? Go in with these questions answered and that'll be fine. So if somebody took my parking spot, that's a small issue, right? But if it happens over and over again, and one day it's pouring outside, and then I flip out at that person, there needs to be a crucial conversation in that instance.
Yeah.
So stakes are high, emotions are high, and opinions vary. But having those questions in your mind before you go into that conversation will help you mend that relationship or continue on with that relationship. So just because it's not a massive issue or it doesn't feel like a massive issue or you're not in charge does not mean you won't have the ability to have crucial conversations because they all come in varied levels. So I would say treat it like one.
Yeah. And I think that's especially I think that's an excellent point, because it's not just about firing or getting someone in trouble, or like, it doesn't have to be anything big. I mean, crucial conversations happen when we're just simply collaborating with people on a project. Um, I'll use this as an example. So like right now, Wayne is kind of spearheading this overall cohesive marketing plan for the company. And so after team meeting, there's some team members who are sitting down and they're all meeting together. And I would imagine that I'm not in on all of these meetings. I've sat in on one of them, but there are people who have this idea or have that idea. And the fact that they feel safe to share all of their different ideas, I think is wonderful, because
Yes.
then someone else might have an opinion about that idea and say, hey, well, we've done that in the past and here's why it didn't work. And we're all kind of like in the trenches together navigating. But at the end of the day, what Wayne has established, the purpose and intention of the meeting he's thought about in advance, is we're trying to get our company to X goal and revenue, right? And so everything that we execute and discuss, like that's like our shared goal. Like at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to achieve here. And so we don't need to like talk something to death, or we don't need to argue about this, that, or the other tactic, like, because we're trying to get to this desired outcome of this specific goal as a result of these meetings after every team meeting, right? Like we want to be able to leave the meeting with things that each individual is executing on with the intention of hitting our revenue goal for the year, right? And so
Definitely.
I think that's like a very specific, and that's a meeting where there is a ton of opportunity for crucial conversations to just come up, because everyone has various opinions on our team about how something should be carried out or what's going to work and what's not going to work. And that is so true in all aspects of business when you're working with a team. There are going to be various opinions, and how do we create a space where people feel safe enough to share those opinions? And I think that shared outcome and goal is really crucial to people understanding the purpose of the meeting and understanding the purpose of like what their role is in the conversation overall too.
Yeah, for sure. And when you say opinion, a lot of people get this picture in their mind where my opinion is the only opinion, the only right one,
Mm,
and anyone who goes against my opinion is wrong and is silly, honestly, because how could you think of that?
yeah.
But if we go into conversations with that, we're automatically not making it a safe place or a
Yeah.
safe shared pool of meaning. You have to go into conversations with the freedom of allowing other opinions. And I know in this day and age, it is not very acceptable to do that, but
Yeah.
go in with the freedom to have those different opinions, and
Yeah.
that will help the conversations go a whole lot further.
Yeah. Just having that openness or that willingness, like
Mhm.
you said, yeah, that's key. Because it's not like I'm coming to the table and being like, this, well, maybe some people are. This is the solution. This is what we should do. And it's like, part of that might be true. Part of what I'm bringing to the table or to the shared pool of meaning might be true. And we might run with part of that, but maybe somebody else has something else to add to it. Right. Um, so yeah, it's very important to have an openness and a willingness to collaborate, because if you come to it closed-minded, that's where the defensiveness, the high emotions, the
Yep.
stakes feel super high for you, whereas maybe somebody else is coming into the conversation really open to your idea, but just want to provide some feedback, which kind of ties into another book that we're reading as a team right now called Thanks for the Feedback, which has been another excellent read. We'll drop the link to that book and also to this book, Crucial Conversations. Um, but yeah, I just think that the mindset in which you go into any meeting, having that awareness of how other people's emotions might run high, having that awareness of your emotions is key to getting to those desired outcomes and being able to like answer, making sure that you're getting that outcome from those questions that we talked about earlier.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, cool. we're right at time, Maura. This has been
Awesome.
so great. I'm like, I can't wait to go back and listen to this and count how many times we said crucial conversations. But just a quick recap for everyone. A crucial conversation can happen at any moment. It is not necessarily planned. And like Maura mentioned, it is not just a super serious hiring, firing, any type of like that's not always the stakes, right? They can happen at any moment, like we said. And they consist of high emotions. They consist of differing opinions. And oh my gosh, what was the last thing? High
High
emotions,
stakes.
differing and what?
High stakes.
High stakes. The stakes are high.
Yeah.
And some questions. Mara, can you quick recap for us, like questions if we're prepared, have time to prepare for a crucial conversation? Number one, we should do it. But number two, what are those questions that we run through with ourselves?
Yeah, definitely. So you want to ask, what do I really want out of this conversation? For myself, what do I want for others out of this conversation? What do I want for the relationship as a whole or for the company as a whole? And then how would I behave or how would I shift the way I bring things up in the conversation in order to get those desired results?
Yeah, love that. And then the last thing that we talked about was really about safety and having an awareness of ourselves and our emotions and if we feel safe in a conversation, but also knowing what to look out for in others, whether we're the person who is leading the charge of the meeting or the conversation or not. It is really key to have that awareness of how other people might be feeling. You might notice that somebody has their arms crossed or that they're being really short or being kind of cold during the meeting. And the goal ultimately is to have that shared pool of meeting so that people feel safe in sharing those various opinions and coming to the meeting yourself with an open mind and not feeling like my solution or what I have to say, it's this way or the highway, right? We need to be open to those things. And so thank you, Maura, for giving us all of this very valuable information, sometimes uncomfortable, right? Because we might be
Sometimes
listening to
very
this.
uncomfortable.
We might be listening to this episode and be feeling a little seen, right? Like I do come to meetings and think it's my way or the highway, or I haven't been recognizing that I've been getting defensive, or I haven't been aware of how my team might be feeling in these meetings.
Yep.
And I haven't been getting a lot of conversation as we're having these, like, in the midst of a meeting. Why is that? Well, maybe it's because people aren't feeling safe. So, gosh, so many different routes that we could go with this. But thank you again, Maura, for sharing all your wisdom. Everything that we've talked about today, we are not psychologists. We are not therapists. It is all from the book Crucial Conversations, which Maura has a copy of here, right here. Tools for Talking When Stakes Are High. We cannot recommend this book enough. I hope this felt like a little bit of a book club, little Q&A. If you want to grab a copy of this, we will drop a link in the comments across all platforms so that you can get a copy of the book yourself. We'd also highly recommend the book that we're reading right now too, called Thanks for the Feedback. I think that's a great book to be reading just after this, or maybe even just before this. I feel like they really kind of relate in a lot of ways.
It was so difficult not to bring up that book in this as like going through all the questions. I'm like, there's so much I could say.
I know, because Thanks for the Feedback talks about like triggers and emotions and narratives and stories that we tell ourselves that play into why we might react a certain way in a group conversation. So I think both of those books are excellent reads. We'll drop the link to Thanks for the Feedback in the comment section as well. Next week on Coffee Chats, we will be back here, same time, same place. I'm going to be chatting with Alex Bjork. He is the manager of our social media department at Ugly Mug Marketing. We're going to be talking all about social media strategy and why social media is about more than just posting, which is something that I'm super passionate about. Like we want to have an actual strategy. We don't want to just be throwing spaghetti at the wall. So I'm really excited to talk to Alex more about that. But before we go, Maura, I want to ask you one question, which is, what is one thing that you are looking forward to this year personally and or professionally at Ugly Mug?
Okay, can I answer one for each?
Yeah.
Is that
of course.
okay? Okay.
Yeah.
So professionally, and this kind of relates to the Crucial Conversations book, professionally, I'm working with the team to help build a more efficient team, but also to have a team with a strong teamwork culture that's all connected. And most of the time, you don't see that in the same business because they are very, they could feel opposite to each other.
Yes.
So trying to figure out how that all works together and create that for Ugly Mug is one of my professional goals for this year. And then personally, I'm having a baby at the end of the year. So super excited.
Yay. Due in December, right?
Yes. Early December.
Mama Maura. I can't wait. I'm going to try not to cry.
Yes, no crying.
Maura is having a little baby. So joining me on the motherhood journey. I'm a year in. My daughter just turned a year this past Thursday. And what a ride. The fastest, slowest, happiest, saddest, just highs and lows, the learning curves, everything. It's a ride. It is a ride for sure. But so
it has been so far. So looking forward to the rest of it.
Yes, absolutely. Well, cool. Well, thank you again, Maura, for joining us here today on Coffee Chats. And we will catch y'all next week. Same place, same time, 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern, right here on Ugly Mug Marketing, LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube. Bye, y'all.
Bye.